for like the Shyvanas, the Mundos, and sometimes even the Trundles. But Renekton's not seen all that much play, but again is a comfort pick for many of the top laners since last season. So Riven will be banned out, and most of these are just targeted.
Now, I wonder where we'll see Triple Lol go here. Now, Shyvana was the first pick for Cloud9 in the last game, and Triple Lol haven't banned out Trundle, so it means if they do pick Shyvana, they could easily get into a position where Cloud9 play their Trundle counter pick, which seems to be in games where they're against both Shyvana and Mundo. But looking at tweets from a couple of people earlier in the day, Trundle seems to be quite a focused pick against Shyvana, so I think Triple Lol are just talking over what they want here and whether they want to get baited perhaps into the plan of Cloud9. It looks like they want to take away the Gragas so that won't be on Forbidden anymore.
Yeah, it at least basically delays the Cloud9 pick of Trundle, especially because it's like, okay, you can take Shyvana, you can take Mundo, but if you don't, then we'll maybe pick it a little bit later, and then you may have already picked your top laner. So there's a little bit of mind games, but it makes sense not to just put all your eggs in one basket, and Gragas is such a consistent mid laner in the current meta, there's no reason not to do that, and a very fast lock-in for Fresh.
And I'm trying to think back in all of the games, I kind of have a feeling that Forbidden has played Gragas in every game. I don't know whether I'm mistaken, but I know in the majority he has picked Gragas because it's been available for him and it's a comfort pick for him that does very well in the meta. Now we get to see what he does in response alongside the Triple Lols Vi and Leona that have been locked in. So a lot of lockdown and disruption there out of the team of Triple Lol.
Yeah, so again, picking their support before their AD carry, just seeing what Cloud9 picks. They could pick something like Lucian, and in return, Triple Lol could very easily pick up Caitlyn, and Vi is just a consistent jungler.
And speaking of consistent junglers, here comes Ku's Lee Sin. We saw it yesterday. This is a champion that Ku is incredibly confident on, very familiar, one of his absolute best junglers that fits his playstyle. It was available to Cloud9, and they've picked it straight off the bat. That is just a pick that I am so looking forward to here.
I almost feel like Triple Lol may be kicking themselves. It was unavailable the first game. Everyone was so focused on the Shyvanas, the mid lanes, the mind games between that. And it's like, oh, Ku's Lee Sin is available and has just been locked in. Alongside Lucian, which we also predicted.
Yeah, Lucian, you pretty much go through a pick and ban phase now. If he's not banned, which he doesn't tend to get banned so much anymore. There was a period where he got quite a few bans given towards him. Just consistent in lane, does very, very well against just about every AD carry choice. There are a few you can pick in response that have different play styles. You can pick Caitlyn or Sivir as they're looking at here. Another option is Jinx, so they lock in the Sivir alongside Leona, and that seems to me a little bit of a mismatch with regards to styles. Normally you see Sivir a little more commonly with Karma, but with Leona already locked in, looks like they want that extra burst of movement speed to go alongside the Solar Flare. Jax has been their pickup for JWoww, which is not surprising again.
Yeah, it's not like they would pick maybe Caitlyn alongside it. It's less mismatched and includes also burst on the AD carry, which isn't terrible, but they had already committed to the Leona pickup, which it's a little odd considering that was picked in response to Fresh, and Fresh can disrupt Zenith Blade using Flay during flight, and when you get to this top level, they are able to do that consistently and reproduce it in bottom lane.
One thing to question here is whether Triple Lol are looking to 2v1 here. Leona isn't the most amazing 2v1 champion. She's got certain limitations on that, but now hold the phone a second, because there is a champion Forbidden played that wasn't Gragas, and it's flooding back to me in response to the Vi pick, and that is Kayle. Because as champions go, they may not be matched against each other, but Kayle is one of the absolute biggest counters to Vi that you can possibly have. The fact that Assault and Battery tells you which target you're going to is an easy pick for intervention. Even after the Kayle nerfs, which reduced the range on intervention, in team fights, it becomes very difficult for Vi to secure a kill on their target with Kayle around.
Yeah, it becomes very scripted, and it's just like, oh, okay, let me just walk over to your target and then use intervention. And it's very easy to read that. Again, there is counterplay from Morden if Forbidden isn't around, or choosing a target who is very far away. But with about 30 seconds left, do you have any final thoughts before we jump into the second game?
Only that I cannot wait for this. The game 1 was amazing. Game 2 looks to be very much of the same. Make sure you guys stick with us here as we're going to a break for a few minutes. Welcome back to game number 2 of the Scan Invitational Winter Grand Finals here. It's Cloud9 going up against Ocelote's Triple Lol squad. And we're in game number 2 with Cloud9 having a 1-0 lead after an incredibly close and tense game number 1. And my goodness, I'm excited for game number 2.
Yeah, the first game was a complete blinder, and Cloud9 and the Triple LoL squad are looking exceptionally strong. We'll see if they can replicate some of that glory, and there are some interesting picks that we haven't seen too much of before, and Ocelote is saying can't move, only 252 FPS. Okay.
It's okay. But Bivens got him beaten with 289, so not to worry there. It looks like they're all running on the right equipment there, so... Both teams in high spirits, regardless of the result of the first one. I think they're both aware of just how close they came to winning and losing that one. If it hadn't have been for that final little pick onto Caitlyn right at the end of the game, may have gone completely differently, because Triple LoL were definitely building speed in the end of that game.
Yeah, there definitely were a couple pivotal points of that game, one of those being that sneaky Baron, and then, of course, Yuki getting caught, but... we'll see how this turns out. Jax, once again, has been picked up. JWoww will be sporting that in the top lane, and I'll be facing down Shyvana. Almost like we see a carbon copy of the first game. Xenoblade will be duked by the bottom.
And now I was a little bit reminiscing back to OGN the other day, where we actually had the Mundo come into this bottom lane and look for that initial kill at level 1 and then teleport top. So I had visions of that happening once again. Unfortunately, not running any teleports here at Cloud9, so not able to pull off a strategy like that, but they get some good damage onto Dude already. And Leona's, one of her limitations is that she doesn't really have that health regeneration.
Yeah, no one expects the level 10 tactics when you get into high competitive play, but JWoww just, again, shoving Odame out, but not too much going to happen. At mid lane, however, will be Kel facing down Gragas, and already showing that she is that lane bully that we all know and fear.
At least it's not quite the old Legion play, if anybody remembers back into Season 2 North America, where Legion would just stack 5 people in the bottom lane or the top lane and just get a kill to begin it. So, not quite that committed to it.
Yeah, indeed, but one day we'll see it. And Ocelote dropping incredibly though, already forces out the flash, and the pause has come down, coming from Cloud9, and this time it is legitimate lag, not 250 FPS lag. So it's actually TeamSpeak problems, so we're just going to be jumping into a quick pause, and I guess it gives us time to kind of think about the starting builds, which you sometimes brush over because there's usually too much action.
Yeah, a little bit of a departure from the previous game. You can see JWoww has actually taken the flask. I think he actually started a Doran's item in game number 1. I may be wrong, but that was over an hour ago, and I was solo casting the beginning, so apologies if that's not quite right. But he's got that extra sustain from the flask to help him through the early portion of the game, and we already discussed how Jax and Shyvana works, with the fact that Shyvana will be able to bully him around for the early game, but the longer and longer that the game goes, JWoww is going to scale incredibly well. As long as he doesn't get too far behind, Jax will become the monster that we saw him in game number 1, and if he's given the right team fights, is able to absolutely duel anybody.
I believe we have that situation again where we're not sure whether the hook that is in air is going to hit or not, so we're going to have to see whether Diode actually flashes out in a couple of seconds.
Well, my screen isn't on that. I'm looking at mid lane after that engagement, so I might not ever know until we may see first blood on the screen, but here comes the unpause.
Let's take a look. No.
Oh, that was anticlimactic.
Boyle just auto-attacks Diode and walks back again. It's like, okay. But, yeah, no too big of a difference in the early game. No real big farm discrepancies forming, and we'll just have to wait for these junglers to really open something up. And Morden has actually gone to his red buff second. Ku has found him, misses the Q, has found him using Tempest into the cripple, but Ku is going to be quite happy picking up 5 gold and will just walk on out. Oh, 7 gold.
Ku was actually tempted to go in earlier. The reason he's pressuring so hard is not just because he's Lee Sin against Vi, but that early flash being burned in the mid lane and the low health on Ocelote means he's not able to rotate, and that sets up this gank, but Morden comes from behind. Yeah,
Ku already quite already on the ward jump over that wall, making sure that Ocelote is going to be safe. That'll be Morden coming to his aid, and it's just been Ku being like literally a split second off the movements of Morden, because had he stayed in that bush for a second longer, he would have seen Morden coming and might have been able to shove him out of the jungle.
And Forbidden is quite strong here in the early games against Ocelote. We've already talked yesterday with Kayle about Righteous Fury and how you can really use that to turn Kayle into the ranged champion. There's a lot of movement going on in the bottom lane, but that amount of damage coming from the Q and also Righteous Fury from Kayle is difficult for Ocelote to deal with this early on into the game. He doesn't have the itemization quite yet to burst down Kayle without landing every single barrel. So it's not that he's struggling, he's just taking this early damage and has to play a bit more careful.
Yeah, Morden finds himself a Dominic who goes into a ward. Flash has already been used. Flash over the wall. Counter-strike comes out. Will be stunning him down. First blood picked up by Morden.
Ocelote gets dropped low as well, but that's the kind of ganks that we've seen out from Morden, and a little surprising that Ku wasn't quite in position to counter gank that, as he has been on top of his game all weekend long. And again, these two are just in the same place, but just at slightly different times, and Morden continues to get the better of these early trades, which is not something you expect from Vi against Lee Sin.
This is 2 games in a row where Vi has been beating Lee Sin very strangely in jungle fights, and in the first game that was a 3-0 to Ku at the time, but this time Morden is really showing his kind of timing on his aggression onto Lee Sin, but this is Ku's Lee Sin we're talking about here.
Yeah, and if you guys saw the highlight from yesterday, Ku is very good on Lee Sin. The hook lands in bottom and the Flay.
Indeed, auto attacks and the charged up damage from Flay, but they are just going to back off. Just a bit of harassment from Voidal.
Morden is looking very aggressive here in the early game, and it's just surprising to see. I mean, Vi normally doesn't reach her peak of ganking until level 6 when Assault and Battery is available. You're relying on hitting the Vault Breakers, so Morden is incredibly confident that he's able to get into lane and able to disrupt the lane as much as possible to try and get flashes and get kills out of each lane that he visits.
Absolutely, and the double Doran's Blade picked up by Jax, and on top of that the Chalice of Harmony from Gragas in the mid lane, and Ocelote has opted for a more utility-heavy build in terms of masteries, as we can see he's already got the Total Biscuit of Rejuvenation.
Indeed, although, yeah, it is still called the Total Biscuit. I wasn't sure whether they'd changed the name on that, but nevertheless.
I made sure because I hovered over it.
You one-upped me again there, Pulse.
There we go. But you'll get me back. Still got plenty of time, and I'm sure this game will not only go on to the 3rd game, but this is only the 2nd game of a potential 5 games for this best of 5 grand finals between Triple LOL and Cloud9 EU.
Now, a departure on the builds in the mid lane. Normally, we've seen a lot of Athene's and Holy Grail. Actually, Ku is looking to come down into this bottom lane, but wards are around. Kayle likes to build the Nash's Tooth first. It gives her the cooldown reduction and extra attack speed, as well as the extra damage onto her Righteous Fury, that when you have a blue buff and the Fiendish Codex, you can almost constantly have Righteous Fury active. There's only about a second to a second and a half where it actually isn't available, but here comes the engage in the bottom.
Yeah, Zenith Blade has landed onto John, but Lee Sin has already been hanging around. He just needs to walk back into lane. Q lands onto that pesky caster minion, who is remaining MVP.
Just noticed that Yuki is running that Pax Sivir skin, so one of my favourite skins, I think, for AD carries. Not that it affects the game at all, just something nice to see.
Not owned by many players, but very nice to see in this game. So, Lee Sin just wandering down. Ku is still looking for more blood, though. Just waiting around the side, seeing if Voidal can land that clutch hook or another Zenith Blade lands in the wrong place.
And again, we're seeing JWoww trading with Odamna in the top lane. A lot of damage going on to Shyvana, and Ku spent quite a while in the bottom lane trying to get a gank, but it looks like there's going to be an engage just for a second off the Zenith Blade, doesn't follow up. And really, the first big kill in mid or bottom lane could open up the dragon for either jungler, because that dragon, when you're playing a champion like Lee Sin or Vi, it's actually fairly easy to do dragon fairly early on in the game. All you have to do is have help from maybe 1 or 2 members, and that's where this gold lead is really just going to start to open up.
Yeah, indeed, and it's getting to the stage where these guys can definitely solo it. Hook will just weave in between, Flay comes backwards, Vi is looking for this gang, Morden charging up the Vault Breaker, and John just gets out with his ally of Voidal, but it's going to go back to farming, it seems.
Morden was level 6 there as well. I'm surprised they didn't commit a little more with the Assault and Battery, because after they'd already got Voidal away with the Flash, that might have left Janan a little bit more vulnerable. DU just leveling up would have been able to hit level 6 from that engagement as well, so it looks like Triple LOL just want to play a little bit more careful, don't want to give away anything too early on in this game, because they've already seen how Cloud9 can deal with a lead.
Yeah, perhaps fearing, Ku was looking for the red buff steal that we saw him try to do very early on to the game. There's no reason why he would stop now, especially when he was around the bottom jungle area. So maybe just wanting to play it conservative so Ku doesn't pick up any advantages, because an advantage in the jungle would be disastrous for Morden.
Yeah, especially when we've seen how good Ku can be on Lee Sin. He's got the slight lead in the farm, both junglers opting for those mobility boots, but the Doran's Blade onto Lee Sin is going to delay his spirit item just a little bit, but we'll give him a little bit more damage. Here comes the solar flare.
Yeah, and the box on top of it. It looks like Voidal might be the sacrificial lamb, or might just escape entirely. A certain battery used for good measure. Yuki was already on top of it, but that has sealed the kill.
And they've spotted Ku in the top lane. That's going to signal an instant rotation after the wards to Dragon. That was what Triple Lol were looking for. They pick up the kill after a good passage of play from Morden, constantly keeping the pressure on the bottom lane.
So that will be Triple Lol picking up the first 2 kills and the first Dragon of the game, putting them in a healthy gold lead. Ku is unable to do anything, not even going to try. Ocelote just comes in to assist, and the 4 members of that Triple Lol team will not be stopped.
And again, these teams are so even that this is almost a mirror of the beginning of last game. We haven't had the 2v1 swap up that we did previously, but it's Cloud9 that end up dropping the first Dragon after picking it up in so many games that they've been the first team to do so. And unsurprisingly, both AD carries going for the same similar builds. We've talked about it a couple of times that Lucian, when building the Bloodthirster first, adds more damage onto the culling. That's the build that Zenon the Stoic, the champion designer for Lucian, does prefer, as it gives him just that little bit more damage in those engagements. And Sivir picking up Bloodthirster first as well will get extra damage on the Ricochet and Boomerang.
Indeed. So the builds are going to differ in the mid lane and top lane, because Jax once again will be looking towards his Trinity Force. Getting his components will be the Phage first, and then the Bladed Rune King perhaps after, maybe the Bilgewater Cutlass thrown in there. And Shyvana can go a couple ways. Bladed Rune King if she's not feeling threatened, or go for the Sunfire Cape, which is more likely against this Jax, who will be dealing split damage. Ku in the bottom lane, again looking for this guy, but sitting right on top of a ward.
That ward has saved Triple Lol a number of times already, and Ku needs to get into this game, but it's just great warding out from Triple Lol that is really denying him any impact. So strange is it to see Elise in at 0-0 and 0 at 11 minutes into the game. Absolutely no effect so far.
He's just found no entry point. There's been no gaps in the armor of Triple Lol, but this might be it. Solar Flare comes down, Ku. Now he's got something on his scoreline. That's a death.
And that is not what they want here. No Dragon available means that Triple Lol will continue to push this. They don't quite have the minion wave available, but it opens up the jungle for Vi to head around the side, and looks like we'll just pull back to take down some more of the jungle away from Ku. And Ku's struggling on Lee Sin, which is not something that we're used to.
Indeed, and it seems like his best champion, Ocelote, moves forwards for a bit and gets blown up. Intervention maybe not used at the best time, and that's an easy ultimate in the form of a Sultan Battery picking up that kill.
Great rotation out by Morden. They knew if they staggered the engage, spell shield used down in the bottom lane, if they staggered that engage to use the intervention, that's when Kayle becomes vulnerable once again, and it results in a death.
Oh, Morden knocked back into his turret using the infamous insect maneuver, but only chunks him down to about 30% HP, and that's ultimate down from Ku to not really any effect.
Once again, Triple Lol pushing down into this bottom lane. Now, they are behind in CS down in that lane, but those kills have really put that in their favor. Triple Lol find themselves about 2,000 gold in the lead. Hasn't quite transitioned into the itemization yet, but you can see already in that middle lane, Ocelote has already got his Athene's Unholy Grail against the level 2 boots and pretty much most of the Nash's Tooth for Kayle. So both mid laners are getting to a point where they're going to be strong in this mid game, and it's a case of which one of them starts to pick up a few more kills and assists could really start snowballing this game away.
Yeah, all of these lanes from Triple Lol are ahead, just very, very slightly, and that will just mean that they'll gradually start to win those lanes. Lee Sin just needs to become a threat on the board, but is unable to find any avenue into these lanes. Superb warding coverage, in fact, everywhere, is just making it difficult for him to do anything other than farm and just get caught in his own jungle. So he's going to head towards this blue. I'm not sure if I can get there in time. This might be a steal opportunity for Morden.
Meanwhile, up in the top lane, you can see that the 1v1 now between Shyvana and Jax in that laning phase. They look for the steal. Did they get it? I believe they did. Yes, Morden did manage to take that one away. So Triple Lol now have possession of both blue buffs. But that 1v1 up in the top lane now is going in favor of Jax. And already they pick up another kill. Apologies, I had my camera somewhere else.
Yeah, Dragon's Rage this time knocked into the turret and did pick up the kill. So Q finally having some presence on the board.
And that's what they need here. They really need Ku to get the things moving because it's just not working out for them right now. And that's more of the jungle stolen away by Gragas. And Ocelote is really finding his groove in this game.
He is, and Forbidden just going to be farming this one out. He can't really push Ocelote out anymore. He's got too much sustain and he's just going to go back to base and pick up even more items. And that's going to be an easily large draw to with 1,600 gold in his back pocket.
It's the team fights that really will see where the effect of Forbidden will come from, because a poor engage out of Triple Lol using the Assault and Battery, if it drags Vi too far out of range, means they won't get the kill from the intervention protecting her target. So that's where we'll see this game open up a little bit more for Cloud9, but it certainly isn't helping them being behind. They've finally started picking up items that'll allow them to get map control, with the fact that Thresh has just finished his Sightstone on top of the Targon's Brace. Pink wards alongside that as well, so maybe now Cloud9 can start establishing a little more control in this game.
Yep, so Dragon spawning will at least form an opportunity for these guys to try and contest, and Yuki is doing a lot of damage with his Boomerang Blade, so when you look at these setups, both of these guys have really good opportunities to go for a fight. Cloud9 always like to go for high mobility, good skirmish compositions, and middle towers in fact just going to fall. Smart rotation, Forbidden has gone back to base, Ku was just farming the Wraiths, unable to stop that 3-man stack, and that's put them in a perfect position to pressure Dragon.
And Triple Lol can do that by the wards they have in the lower jungle. You can see there's a line around this outskirts of the jungle. They knew there was no rotations coming from bot or the jungle, so there was nobody to defend that turret once they'd sent KO back. So really smart play there out of Triple Lol to be able to set themselves up for a dragon here, and they've already spotted where Ku is, so there's no chance of him getting in to contest.
He can't contest, he can't steal, but they're going to come near to try and see if they can pick off at Straggler. Ku does not want to go anywhere near that, and everyone just returns to lane. Cloud9 are starting to choke a little bit here in the start of this game.
Right there, that fight was not any kind of fight that Cloud9 won, and once again, Ku is trying to get down in this bottom lane. The ward in that bush is there once again for Triple Lol, so no way Ku can do anything there in the lane, and Cloud9 didn't want to take that fight, but also they can't let too many objectives go away from them, because this is what we've seen Cloud9 do to other teams, is put them in a position where they have to completely commit to a fight.
Yeah, like this one, Voidal has been caught, Box comes down, Yuki is getting chunked, flashes out defensively, Morden is already there, huge lantern draws him back to Voidal, and the Vault Breaker is being charged up by Morden, can't quite get there in time. Ocelote with a huge barrel over the wall, but Ku is there to save his allies.
No one died from that, but Cloud9 are going to be playing a little bit scared there after taking massive damage from Ocelote. You can see he's got a needlessly large rod alongside that Athene's Unholy Grail, so he's reaching a point where he's incredibly confident as Diyu gets caught out by Ku.
Yeah, insects and backwards into his team, but that will actually mean he lands the Eclipse onto 2 players. Yuki trying his best to proc that damage, blocks the spell shield, but he can't block the hook, which will be him being flayed backwards. Voidal's so incredibly low, Yuki will be the first to fall. Ku will get out with his life and the rest of his team. 2-0, and Ku is finally having the impact on the game he wants.
That's what Cloud9 needed here, and now they're going to continue to push on towards Morden. You can see the roam here from Forbidden. Morden's already pulling back after walking over the pink ward, did Forbidden. Ku has to be careful. The shield out from the lantern will keep him alive from the tower, but that should be Cloud9 being able to get an objective. They've got to be careful that Ocelote doesn't take too much here in the mid lane.
Yeah, and Ocelote is just grinding away at these turrets. Gragas surprisingly pushes quite well, not only being able to clear out those waves, but the extra AD from Drunken Rage is actually going to help him take down these turrets. Kill's going to come in, and Forbidden's going to clear this wave out. So top lane is something we've kind of just forgotten about here, Stressers. No one's really touched it, but this time, Dragon Descent has come down. Adonde trying to pick up this kill, but a reaction from Morden, and apparently a tower survived on 1 HP, but it will be going down.
Yeah, it did fall in the end, but the Ignite managed to pick up the kill for Jax. That's where they want that kill to go. They've already got 2 onto Vi, so not only do they further Jax's improvement in the game, it will allow him to pick up a few more items. Trinity Force already finished here for Jax, so how will that affect this game? You saw the trading from Shyvana, and even though it was under the turret, I'm still not sure that that was the best call there out of Odoamne to really trade with Jax, because the more gold they give Jax, the faster Jax will catch up to Shyvana with the ability to trade.
Indeed, and just having some jungler presence in the top lane has allowed Jax to pick up his Trinity Force, which is his first damage item, most likely going to build a Blade of the Ruin King next and look for a single defensive item like the Guardian Angel. Indeed, Randuin's, like we saw last time, Voidal right on target using that flay, jumps in with Death Scented, chains that into the box, and a huge lantern for Q, but the great Solar Flare will stop them in their tracks.
Yeah, that denies Cloud9 any kind of aggression there, and Cloud9 really are putting a lot of emphasis on this bottom lane, but with Dragon not available, it's just one of those things that while Morden is focusing on top lane, Cloud9 aren't getting anything down bot.
Yep, but it might result in another kill with this focus, Assault and Battery use, and the Vault Breaker. Jwel just trying to land the last auto attack, and Dragon is sent over the wall defensively will get him out, along with Forbidden just heading into the top lane to see if he can just stop his ally from dying and maybe defend his turret, but that's going to be a no because Jwel has already taken it down.
And that's Odoamne, knowing his champion and the limitations, knew exactly how far Dragon's Descent goes, so managed to draw Jax and Vi around the corner, used the Leap Strike out of Jax, so no chance of them following him, and pretty much a max range Dragon's Descent at that angle where you can just about clear the wall. So very, very nice play there out of Odoamne for knowing the champion.
So there's 1 minute 30 left on the Dragon, and now that Cloud9 has finally gotten some kills into their team and under their belts, they'll be able to maybe contest this Dragon, unless someone gets picked, because that has been the catalyst for these Dragon pickups from the team of Triple Lol.
And vision has become so important on this preseason patch. You can see just how focused both teams are. So much vision down in the bottom side of that map that continually gets placed and cleared and placed and cleared in this cyclical fashion, where neither team has ended up with control over the pit of Dragon, because your wards don't last that long right now. And especially in this game, you can see Dragon is a dark area for both teams. So both teams know when it is going to be spawning because of that little skirmish that almost happened when Dragon got taken down last time, but neither team yet has managed to prepare the Dragon, but they've got plenty of wards on the opposite side of the map around the area.
Yeah, so Cloud9 already putting a jungler down there to see if they can strangle Triple Lower Vision. Diode and everyone else converging on the area, and Shyvana's already walked down from top lane. And yeah, Forbidden was thinking about going to top lane, but will think better of it and move towards the bottom. So a lot of wave clear between Excessive Force and Sivir's just standard combo. And Dragon will be spawning in around 15 seconds.
Yeah, Cloud9 don't have the exact time because they didn't have vision, but they might get caught out.
Yep, Jwel just takes the Sonic Wave and Resonating Strike from Q, but will be A-OK. Morden just charging up the Vault Breaker from across the wall. Diode looking for that long-range solar flare, which has that short cooldown. No one is quite out of position for them. Maybe Odoamne, they see how squishy he is, and the answer is not very. The Dragon is now alive, and Cloud9, let's see what they can do about it. Voidal just sitting around the outskirts is dropping very quickly, down to 50% HP. Q is used to use the Dragon's Race defensively. Voidal has jumped in. Real Cavalry to help him out here. He will fall. Diode also looking to back up. Morden is already up in the grill of Cloud9, and Q is just trying to escape with his life. Now Ocelote falling after Forbidden, not quite going to catch him, but meanwhile, underneath his turret, Jwel will take down Odoamne.
Neither team managed to take the Dragon there, so it was a big commit there from C9 for nothing. They only picked up 1 kill, they drop 3, and they'll lose the Dragon and more than likely lose this middle lane tower, as Ocelote was already pressuring it earlier. It's on half health, it will die to Sivir and Jax.
And again, teamfight after teamfight will just go into the favor of Triple Lol. C9 are just being put into places where they just do not want to go for the teamfights. The teamfights that they want, that they usually construct around being ahead, are just not working out, and they're finding it very difficult to find those fights being behind.
It's completely flipped from game number 1. Triple Lol just have come out with a much better game plan here, although dude has to be careful. I don't know whether he can dive that turret right away on his own. Would have required the help from Voidal and Forbidden, but C9 just to getting into a position that they were in against Triple Lol in the previous games. They really need to start understanding how to play this one out. The problem is, if they try and drag this out like Triple Lol did in the previous game, Jax will only get stronger.
And the difference between this game and the first game here, Stress, was Cloud9 actually stabilized the gold and then got a little bit ahead, and Triple Lol still stalled the game. Now they're ahead, they have a strong late game team once again. This is the style that they like to roll with, and it doesn't look like the gold is stabilizing anytime soon. With all of these fights flying in their favor, all the objectives are basically theirs.
One thing Cloud9 have done very well in this series and the entire tournament that we've seen them is their ward control. It has just been impeccable. You can see even when behind, the whole lower jungle is littered with wards so that they can make sure they can see where Triple Lol are rotating to. And that's such an important part of coming back into a game that is one of the most difficult things to do. But JWoww and Odamna are continuing to trade in that top lane, and that's where Ku is, but he's losing objectives in the lower half of the map.
He is, but with Jax being such a presence, he has drawn both of these guys to the top lane. Flash is being used, and that just signals the end of the engagement. All that time that Ku used and the bottom tower was just a flash.
And now, what will Triple Lol look to do here? Morden's in the bottom lane, gets hooked.
Voidal catches a flying Morden and will just be sacrificing himself. Culling comes across to clan to clear these creep waves, and we'll be clearing that one out. They're going to try and tank this up for Vivian arrives, and they should be able to keep this alive.
Yeah, they do keep it alive. They lose Voidal in exchange, and Ku has managed to find his way into the bottom lane. Yuki just about out of range of that Sonic wave. So Triple Lol are looking to accelerate the game through past the mid game to start shutting down Cloud9, but Cloud9 are a formidable team, so they've just got to keep on top of things. Here comes another trade out between Odamna and Jax.
Yeah, but this is Jax just walking into their jungle and just claiming the red buff. The fights are happening not in the lane where it's an even environment. He's just walking wherever he likes at this stage and then picking fights with anyone he chooses.
Jax, I think, is under delusions that he's Mundo right now, because he's going where he pleases. As you said, goes in, takes red, and yep, I'm walking right back out of here. So that's one thing that Cloud9 have really got to deal with. He's well farmed at 251 with 2 kills, so he's made it out of the laning phase, which is Jax's weakest time, because in teamfights he's able to pick one target and take them out, then pick another target and take them out, as long as he doesn't get locked down too much. And now that he's made it to this comfortable point of the game, he's going to be very difficult to deal with.
We've spoken so much about the general movements of the teams and what's been happening in the big picture that we've kind of ignored Jax, and that's a necessary sacrifice that Cloud9 have had to make. They haven't been able to shut down Jax before he becomes a monster. And 250 farm, basically perfect farming at this stage, 2 damage items and well on his way to his defensive item. This early is very scary, and not only do they have to contend with a team who is ahead and probably going to stall for another 10 minutes, it's going to be a Jax who's only going to get stronger.
And it's not just a Jax, it's JWoww's Jax. I mean, if any of you watched TCM play, specifically even when Jax was even stronger than he is now, JWoww is just insane on Jax. His mechanics and decision making are great.
Yeah, and just sitting on top of the Dragon Descent has been used. That switch to mid lane because Ocelote will be taken down. Cloud9 are trying to take an objective while the going is good. Yuki gets caught, huge depth sentence. Voidal was absolutely on point. Double kill comes in for Jarman, and Dial is slowly being chunked underneath the turret and will indeed fall. Ku tanking that up for his team and making sure that's in the right place, and they will be sieging the middle lane. Top tower has already fallen.
Top tower has fallen. It's a question of how much Cloud9 can get out of this before Jax makes an appearance in mid lane. Jax doesn't have home guard because he hasn't even got level 2 boots yet. He skipped that in favor of the Spectre's cowl alongside his 2 damage items. So that will limit their ability to chase Cloud9 down, who take 2 towers from that in exchange to 1, and that's the kind of play that Cloud9 needed to get them back into this game.
Yeah, Cloud9 collect 2 towers, but they lose a member in top lane, and they also lose an inner turret for their troubles. So Dragon spawning in 30 seconds, but at least they are making some headway into stabilizing.
The question now is, how long is it until Triple Lol realize they have really good Baron clear?
Yeah, Cloud9, that might be what they need to do. We've seen it before. The clutch steals or clutch attempts to take this with a couple members out of the blue is something that has won them many games in this tournament so far. So, again, Triple Lol have to be aware of this and probably will just commit someone to making sure that's warded at all times.
It wasn't even, that wasn't, oh well, that wasn't the point that I intended to make originally, but yes, that is also true. That my point was that with Jackson Vi, oh my goodness, is that going to die very quickly.
Yeah.
And you could see them move over towards it. It wasn't until Vi used the sweeper that they revealed the ward. Jax was like a second away from attacking that Baron, and they would have attempted that had the ward not been there. So Triple Lol know their limitations as well, and they're looking to get any picks that they can.
Indeed, the Baron will melt from either of these teams, but now that they're in the lead, it could be Triple Lol, or they could be trying to destroy John, and underneath his turret, Ku has found him, maybe looking for the insect, not quite committing it just yet, knocking Diode sideways, cutting his own vision. They might follow up for this fight. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case.
And I'm sure somewhere in the world, Zen and the Stoic, after getting that full channel of the culling out there, seeing the damage from that Bloodthirster Triforce Last Whisper, will just be smiling, because that's how much damage the culling has. It's one of the highest damages in the game if you can get the full channel off, but it does require no blocking to be present there.
Indeed, and he's not even level 16 when he hits another damage spike in his culling, so we'll be looking forward to that. So 9 to 8 has stabilized the kills, and the towers have stopped falling rapidly, so at least Cloud9 are definitely still in this game. Baron is still on the field, has not even been disturbed at 30 minutes into this game.
And this is what we can expect from close teams in this meta game, and specifically the preseason patch, because both teams being so close means it's difficult to shut out a game, which draws the game longer and really tests the decision-making of both teams. It's so important not to get picked until you get Sonic Wave there. It's so important not to get picked at these stages of the game, because you start giving away bigger and bigger objectives, because your death timers are so long. So 1 or 2 picks can even end a game, like we saw in game number 1. That was a little later into the game than 31 minutes, but it's certainly not worth overextending this far into the game.
And both of these teams have really good picking potential. Like, you look at Voidal's Death Sentence, a Sonic Wave can very easily lead into a pick. And then on the flip side, Triple Lol are sporting Diode's Leona, and then a Solar Flare will collect a kill. And as you said, death timers are very long, and it will result in some sort of permanent objective like a tower.
And I'm just still waiting to see how long it is until Triple Lol look to rotate to that Baron. Cloud9 have done a good job of keeping wards around the area, but there will come a time where they're pushed up a little too much, and Triple Lol feel like the time is right to get that Baron. JWoww now has a Banshee's Veil on him as well, so that's going to make him even more difficult to stop from getting into the backline.
Indeed, and Triple Lol, while they're ahead, are going to find it very difficult to go for Baron or make a big game-swinging event happen, because Cloud9, as we all know, like these high mobility compositions which they are running this game, which means that if they do go for Baron, they'll be there in an instant, and they will have to contend with at least some of those members. So it's very difficult to find the right opportunity to go for Baron, or the right opportunity to rotate for a turret. So it's a lot of kind of dancing around, picking up the right items, itemizing, and going for those jungle buffs.
And it feels almost like the reminiscent of Season 2, where it was so important to keep your inhibitor turrets alive. Of course, inhibitors have been changed a little bit now, so they don't quite offer so much, but the presence of the inhibitor turrets means that even with lanes pushing in, it's fairly easy to clear them out, and you can kind of let it lapse in the back of your head to establish better map control that you have a lane pushing in towards you.
Indeed, and now the tension is starting to build. Zodamne, the Vault Breaker's being charged up, which signals the very start of this fight. They will just nuke down Forbidden. This looks like a horrible team fight for Cloud9 already. It's just everyone trying to access the escape pods and running away as fast as possible. Q does not even bother waiting for his wall jump, and he's just flashing out of there. And now the Baron is just under contention by the team of Triple Lol. Q's going to try his best, but Diode is going to be the one who is going to be the gatekeeper, keeping away from that Baron pit. Ocelote also wants some blood. Q is going to completely escape. They're not going to be able to contest this. More than JWoww will rip apart the Baron.
Oh my goodness, that's how you get rid of a Kale. Kill her before she can use intervention. The explosive cask right now is doing 1,000 damage before resistances, and Kale only has 2,000 health. So you can count the amount of seconds that she's going to live without hands, because none. You saw Forbidden get instantly deleted, not even a reactionary intervention would have saved him there, and that set them up for a perfect team fight. They lost hardly any health, let alone losing no members, and secure the Baron for themselves. Perfect play from Triple Lol.
It doesn't even require us to do maths on stream here, Stress. We know he's dead within an instant, and that's something that's got to be at the back of the minds of Cloud9, that one of their members could just disappear from the map at any given point in time. So they're going to have to wait for that. And now that Baroness is on the team of Triple Lol, it's going to make it hard for them to push out of their base. Well, I say that, but just chilling in mid lane, it's fine.
Well, they haven't lost any inhibitors yet, so pushing out of their base isn't as much of a problem right now, as long as they establish ward control and avoid the team fights. It's very difficult to avoid the team fights when one of you is about to get deleted off the map, like we saw just then. The problem they have to deal with is that JWoww will split push now. That's not anything but the game plan here for JWoww. The rest of his team will start to group up with him, but you can see him split pushing in a lane because nobody can deal with him. Means that they have a wave up to the tower already. The wave clear is good for C9, but is it good enough to stop Triple Lol?
Well, they chip away at Odamne, so we can see he's pretty strong right now. And again, this is the classic siege situation in the top lane. But they are going to find it very difficult to crack the shell of Cloud9 as they are just sitting in their base. Unless they can land the Gragas barrel, which knocks a member over the wall, or just remove them from the top turret. That's what they're definitely looking for, but there is some decent wave clear coming in from C9.
But again, with that amount of damage and disruption that comes from Gragas, 4 stay in one lane, JWoww pushes through the middle lane. And the more and more this goes on, Cloud9 are going to have trouble from stopping them, because it depends on who they send. Nice spell shield there out of Sivir. They've sent 2 to deal with JWoww. This could signal the engage up in the top lane, but you can see Cloud9 preemptively rotating back up towards top as Triple Lol start to group once again.
Indeed, and that's the unfortunate reality. You do have to commit 2 people to that Jax since he is so incredibly strong at this stage, and it's not going to be Odamne because he needs to be sitting in the top lane to block the damage from the ranged carries. And again, rotating to mid lane, just playing this game of just jumping back and forth, juggling themselves between these lanes.
And it's the case that if they let Jax split push, he'll get to a tower and then kill it before you can even do anything about it, because Jax's empowered abilities just end up shredding with that attack speed addition as well, that every time he touches a tower, it's dangerous.
This time they've gone for the engage on their own terms. Gragas Power will not quite do enough damage this time around. Dragon Descent will go sideways. JWoww has dropped. This may be the turning point of this team fight. The flame comes back with Zyod, will not be dragged back into that grinder. And 1 for 0, and Jax dies.
Too deep out of JWoww. He cannot go that far in alone. His Counter-Strike will only block the basic attack damage. It's not going to stop Forbidden from shredding through him with his Q, as with so much damage from the rest of Cloud9 as well, he just drops instantly, and that might be what Cloud9 need to get back into this. Dragon is worth a little bit more gold if they were wanting to rotate down to that after the changes that were made in preseason, but apart from that, there's not too much they can do with 4 members of Triple Lol still up on the map. It does give them some breathing room, however.
Indeed, and these games, for the entirety of this series, Stress, I definitely feel always going to go at least past 40 minutes, because these guys are not going to let up, and Cloud9 are still holding on despite their composition. Maybe some would say are better on the offensive. We just haven't seen Cloud9 in this compromising position before.
I have no problem with these games going to the late game.
Yeah, not at all.
It's an absolute treat to get to watch 2 teams of this caliber play in one of the first Challenger tournaments of the year. A reminder, guys, if you have only just joined us, this is a Scan Invitational powered by Creative Sound Blaster, Netgear, and Be Quiet. We're in the grand finals. This is only game number 2 out of the fantastic best of 5 that we have had already. 1 game go this long, and it was so tense. This is for a £3,000 prize pool as well, so it's not just like it's some small amount of money. Both of these teams want that money and want the bragging rights for the beginning of the 2014 season.
Yeah, there's a lot on the line, including these bragging rights, as you well put it, Stress, and that's probably most important thing for a lot of these players, since I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot from these teams in the next season. And if you have just joined us, it's been 1-0 to Cloud9 EU, and if this game does go the way it looks like it's going to go to Triple LOL, we will at least see another 2 games.
Which I would be over the moon about. Triple LOL take themselves another tower, so they are once again turning the pressure back on, but again, I can't do much but commend the warding out from Cloud9. You can see that every player has made sure that they're putting wards down as much as possible to keep on track of Triple LOL. You can see the top side of the jungle all around Baron has been warded. They've also got some spot wards around the lower just to catch any rotations so that they can quickly push into a lane. But we're reaching the point where some of the members are having 5 or 6 items finished. There's a couple of Doran's Blades in there that will end up going on champions such as Jax and Shyvana, but at 370, nearly 400 farm on these guys, these champions are incredibly tanky here.
Yeah, and with Baron being up in 1 minute, it's unlikely that Team Triple LOL will try and go any further with the tower pushing, considering the only ones alive will be those infamous inhibitor turrets. But 2 of these Banshee Veils have been picked up to try and mitigate some of the damage, and also the picking potential from Voidal, who has been on the mark with his death sentences.
Yeah, it's actually 3. They've picked up a 3rd. Jax, Vi, and Sivir all have a Banshee's Veil, so it's really going to prevent a lot of the engage that Cloud9 have. If Ku is looking to engage with the insect-style kick, it's going to be difficult because one of his abilities won't go off. So if he's looking to ward jump into kick, he won't be able to. He's going to have to burst down with either his E or Q before he can get that kick available, which is just going to delay that combo ever so slightly.
Yeah, and they don't have long-range abilities to pop all of those spell shields, and it's going to be just tough to try and get that done. Baron has spawned, and they already have started. They're going to see if they can take it down before the reaction comes out from Cloud9. We'll see if that's the case. JWoww is this time going to be the guy that they have to get past if they want to try and even get a chance at stealing this Baron, and it's going to be Triple LOL backing off. Do not want to group up so that they get themselves in position for a Dragon Descent or a big AoE ability from Cloud9. And again, we start the Baron dance.
And JWoww is the champion that's really going to shred through that Baron, so the fact that he wasn't quite available when they started has kind of drawn Cloud9 out of their base from that prolonged Baron attempt, and now it looks like Triple LOL have good positioning because here they go for the fight.
Yeah, and that will actually follow him all the way back to his ally. Afresh, he used the Dark Lantern, and now he's just been completely annihilated. 2 of the members have dropped from Cloud9. This could definitely be the game right here and now. Ku jumps over the wall, will in fact not drop just yet, escapes with his life. Adrame is going to be the one who's going to get focused, and Jonan takes down Jax off to the side, but 2 versus 4 is what they're going to have to contend with. In fact, they have to back off, so only 2 for 2 overall.
An even fight with Lucian somehow managing to pick off Jax as Jax dived deep for Ku through the turret. So Jonan really positioning himself well in that fight, and it means that neither team gets a significant advantage from that, but you have to think that the net gain there is going to go to Cloud9 because it means they stay in this game. They've halted Triple LOL once again.
I can't know if that initiation was scripted or that's exactly what Morden wanted, but using a certain battery to follow him all the way to Fresh was actually what got them those 2 initial kills. It was just good kiting and juggling from Cloud9 which allowed them to pick up the 2 kills themselves, but either way that has evened up the playing field and Baron is still on the board.
That's one of the ways that you can disrupt a Vi's engage, is if you can drag Vi far enough away from her team that the follow-up isn't there immediately, you can actually end up picking her off and then trading well in the team fight. It just so happens that the rest of the team composition of Triple LOL is just good enough to be able to kite that fight around and pick off a couple of kills to even the fight up. But that was good play out of Cloud9 to draw Vi away. As you said, not sure how intentional it was, but it worked out nonetheless.
Absolutely. So Dragon will be spawning in about 1 minute, but it's not going to be the main objective for these guys playing right here in the grand finals of the Scan Invitational EU West. In the grand finals, of course, in the second game, and Cloud9 versus
Forbidden.
Team LOL. Team Triple LOL have found themselves Forbidden. He's used the intervention. Yuki is already out. Morden this time initiates, and there's no intervention to save him. Alderane is already there. Jwell jumps onto John, but he has kited him away. The culling has come down. There is so much peeling potential, but he's still not dead. There we go. Diad has jumped to the back line, and everyone evaporates as a huge barrel from Ocelote enters and drops 2 people.
And watching that fight, I was thinking Cloud9 might have had that, but Ocelote, coming a little bit later to the fight, makes his presence felt with a giant explosive cask. The key in that was he hit Janan straight on the head with that barrel, completely obliterates him out of the fight. And that is most likely here as Triple L push in with high depth timers left on Cloud9. That should be game number 2 going to Triple Lol.
Well, they pick up the inhibitor. They try for this Nexus turret. They've gone for the 2 versus 5 engagement. The Zhonya's comes in from Ocelote. Voidal will drop. Adamne is still very tanky. We'll see if we can clear out this mini wave. The first Nexus falls. The first Nexus turret falls. The rest of the team will be up in about 5 seconds. 5 seconds on Forbidden. The second Nexus turret falls. Adamne is actually uses Dragon Descent. It's not going to be enough. It drops everyone very low. Forbidden arrives. But as you called it, will be the first win from Team Triple LOL, but the second game going to Lololol.